Hi, this is David Baumblatt from Terabant Leadership. Let me just take a look at the feed. I was like sort of canceled on Rumble. Maybe it was a timing issue. Let me just make sure we're on there. If you're on there, for any viewers, feel free to say hi, but I should be live now on Rumble, on X, and on YouTube. Let me just do a quick check again. If anyone's on there, just feel free to do a comment. I'm going to check real quick. Either way, hopefully we are. Checking really quick on Rumble. Today's episode is going to be about wealth inequality, where America's going. I'm clicking right here really quick on this. So I think we are. I think we're live. Again, feel free to put any comments. So this is what it is. So anyway, 2025 is about to end. Everyone now, I think in New York or whatever in America, are preparing for tonight's New Year's Eve. We've already had it here in Asia. So hopefully you're going to have a better 2026 than you have 2025. So what we're going to talk about is, like I've said many times, what's happening in America that's going to go to the collapse, as we know it, it's going to be economic in nature. Economics is going to be the real push, the real impetus of how things are going to change. And one of the things I've said many times is a lot of people believe that the far right or the right, whatever you want to call it, view America as capitalism. And if you're against this system, then you're an anti-capitalist. And I've said many times, we don't have capitalism anymore. I think that system ended or began to end decades ago. I probably would say about 40 years or more. And I've said many times is we have what's called global corporatism. And this globalism, feminism, communism, it's all very similar. And our country's turning into basically an oligarchy where the 1% continue to make more money and the 99% continue to make less money. And if that is your definition of capitalism, then guess what? The system will implode. We all know that. There's no system in a world where the top 1% continue to get richer and richer and richer, and the majority of Americans have trouble feeding themselves. And if you cannot have a country that can self-reproduce, meaning if you want to have children, you need a home, this and that, it takes money. So if this country is not reproducing itself from its own population, we haven't been decades. That's why we import people all the time. It's not a viable system. So again, I don't view the current American economic system as capitalism. And I make that known because, again, that's usually what you could say the right will fire back on you. If you don't like this system, then you're anti-capitalism. And I grew up in America, probably similar to you, if I'm thinking of a normal American watching, that if you were not economically successful, it's probably relegated to three reasons. One, you're not smart enough. Two, you're not hardworking enough. Or three, you're not risk-taking enough. So that way, we would look at the people who had a lot of money and we would think, well, they deserve it. They did it the fair way. They're just smarter than me, hardware. It's not. Our system is so rigged in many ways. And a lot of times is when you leave America like I did, and you see how these globalist corporations treat us, they put other nations ahead. This legal system is really put in place more and more. It's becoming more transparent to keep those enriched and keep those that don't have money unable to achieve it. And again, this system is not going to work. Like I said, it keeps going to that 1%. I'm going to talk a little bit about taxes later. Let's just open it up from this one person. I think his name's Scott Galloway. And this is what I've always said. One of the things you have to understand is that the far right, and I don't think this guy Scott Galloway is far left, but I don't think he's a Trump supporter. And so what I'm trying to say is there are more and more people, and you could say, I guess the new class would be not left or right, maybe rich or poor. And the rich are like these 1% oligarchs, and the poor, it's getting more and more. So maybe that is what I'm trying to explain. That is the enemy, and that's where you can unite. So the point is, you may be politically left, I may be politically right, but we're both not doing economically great. Some of us are doing really bad. And who's holding that away from us? It's not the American dream, meaning you're not being held back because you're just not a hard worker. This system now is absolute power corrupts absolutely. So these 1% now are getting to the point that they are manipulating the legal system to keep you out of, you could say, the American dream, where you want a family, a house, and this and that. And that's why I'm saying the left and the right should not be fighting against each other. It really should be, for lack of a better word, the ultra rich, and you could say everyday Americans. And so that's where Trump, even though I like him, if you're a billionaire, it's very difficult for you not to put yourself in that place of being part of the ultra rich class. Let's do a quick video on this guy, Scott Galloway. And I'm telling you, you're seeing this more on the left and the right because everyone's getting hammered economically. But the rich, to include Trump and his rich kids, they're going to do very well. And so let's just take a look at this now, and then we'll talk more.
Yeah.
So Scott, let's get into your book. But first, run through, if you will. I've seen you talk about this in speeches. Talk about how the system is rigged. So if you got $1 million, great. If you got 5 million, 10 million, even better. Life gets easier because the way our tax system's set up.
Yeah, we have a very progressive tax system until you get to about the 99th percent. And essentially the people who get most damaged by our current tax code, it's lower and middle income households. Their taxes have gone up slightly because of consumption, but not because of federal. The people that really get hurt are what I call the workhorses. And that are people who make an exceptionally good living, but it's all current income. And they live in a blue state. They might be paying 50 to 54% tax rate. I bet some of those people are on around this table right now. But if you can make the jump to light speed and invest in assets, stocks, housing, then your tax rate plummets. So in America, we've decided to try and create a super class of billionaires. And then if they win the gold medal, we're going to give them the silver and the bronze. Two biggest tax deductions, capital gains and mortgage interest. Who owns homes and stocks? People my age. Who doesn't know? Who rents and makes their money from current income? Young people. So we've decided that.
So again, if anyone knows this guy, Scott Galloway, I don't know him very well, but I did listen to a couple things that he said. He's not a Trump supporter. He's probably not far left, but he could be on the left. And I keep saying this again, it's going to be the economic impetus that's going to bring us into that collapse of revolution. And because of the wealth continues to get concentrated in the top 1%, it gets to the point, you're left, I'm right, we're both broke, man. We are both economically struggling. Why are we fighting with each other? At least in the short run. In the long run, I understand that. We don't share the similar political ideologies. But these 1%, it's gotten to the point, it is called corruption. You could call it cronyism, corporate greed, globalism, you name whatever you wanted. I mean, even Donald Trump launching his shitcoin to include Melania Trump, the first lady. Boy, she took away the grace out of being a first lady by her launching her shitcoin. Let me just do a quick clip on that because it's a great leadership lesson on here. Let me just explain that to you. Trump is a businessman. He's a salesman and business. And like I said, I would rather have a CEO as our president than a communist. So that we have it. But here's the deal. And we're going to just delve into a little leadership here. Donald Trump is the elected president. And I saw this when I was in the military. Any of you military guys, you've known it. That is, the wife of the general will sometimes, it's very normal, to walk around base and act as if she's the general. And the truth be told is you better do what she says, because even though she doesn't formally outrank you, she's the wife of the general. And all she's got to do is that night when she goes home, tell her husband, hey, you know, there was this lieutenant or private or sergeant and whatever. And that general, who is in your chain of command in one way or another, he could take care of your life pretty good or bad. So that way, you got to listen to the general's wife. But we don't like that. We really appreciate the general's wives who really stick in their lane. And then there's a woman's group. I won't go into it, but in the military, there's their wives group, and they take care of children and family stuff, and that's fine. But we don't like it, generally speaking, military men, I don't like it where the general's wife walks around as if she has the stars on her collar. Let the general do that, because you didn't earn becoming a general. Your husband did. Now, how does this relate to Donald Trump and Melania Trump? Well, we elected Donald Trump. If Donald Trump divorced Melania Trump tomorrow, I mean, sure, it'll affect people. Why did he divorce her? What it is? You know, it can indirectly or directly affect how we look at Donald Trump. But I voted for Donald Trump. And sure, like I said, the whole family picture comes into it. What about his sons? What about his kids? We get that. But Donald Trump is the commander in chief. Donald Trump's the president, not Melania Trump. But I get it. Just like in the military, Melania Trump wants to do initiatives for women, for children, you know, on the side, you know, low key on the side. We get it. That makes sense. But the point is with this crypto shitcoin, that when Donald Trump launched it, it was sleazy. But he's a businessman, sleazy. He's a guy. Again, I'm not saying this is good. But when Melania Trump, it's sort of like that. She took away the grace as just the first one. When she launched her shitcoin, it really went to the bottom of the barrel. And here's why. Let me just give you an example of this. Picture a young girl in America who looked up to Melania Trump, you know, a very young girl. She's 18, 19, 20, and she looked to Melania Trump as her role model. And she took the very few money that she had saving in her savings account, we'll say $2,000 US. And when Melania became first lady again, Melania launches her shitcoin. And this young girl says, I'm going to buy that because it's Melania's coin and I love her and this and that. And guess what? She lost out on it. It's a shitcoin. And the point is what I'm trying to do with leadership is men, we have to do the dirty work. And we take responsibility of it. We get the luxury to lead society, but we also do the dirty work, and we're going to also be name called. That's why I have to have thick skin. Women in a traditional society, they don't do the dirty work. They stay away from business, and they're able to. They don't get leadership positions, but they're able to keep their, I guess you could say, pureness, virginity, whatever you want to call it that. So they stay away from military. They stay away from politics, they stay away from business, and they just try to focus on women and children and families and stay away. And that way, they hold their innocence. But when Melania Trump launched her shitcoin, that was a real low. I mean, I was shocked. When Donald Trump launched it, I was like, that's a sleazy move. But he probably, like any, I think Shane mentioned that. Shane, I think Shane's on here. He's like, it's nearly impossible to become a billionaire ethical. So I think we can all agree that Donald Trump, by becoming a billionaire, he's probably done illegal acts, unethical acts. It is what it is. But the woman who shouldn't be a billionaire, you don't expect this. So I don't want to go into that so much, but it just shows really that sort of that unethical appeal. And we're going to get back to Scott Galloway, but when you are Donald Trump and a family and you're a billionaire, it's almost impossible for you to say, well, I'm not one of those top 1% globalists. I'm one of those good guys. I don't know. I mean, we're talking, I mean, when I grew up in America, there was never even such thing as a billionaire. It was millionaires. Maybe the next generations, it's going to be a trillionaire. I mean, can you just imagine the money that you have to be a billionaire? Like, do we really need that much money? And I'm okay with people becoming rich. And I'm okay with people, you could say, having low income, but they're not destitute poor. They could still live a dignified life. So I'm okay with rich, but a billionaire. I mean, do we really? This is the society we've created in America, where we could have a society where we could create billionaires, and then we have homeless military veterans, or basically, that's our society. It's gotten so out of whack. And like I said, a great thing to think about was Donald Trump's shitcoin. And I know I'm focusing now. I could say good stuff about him, but again, if you're a billionaire in America, it's going to be almost impossible for you to say you're not part of the club. Why did Donald Trump not want to release the Epstein files? I'm almost positive he was protecting his buddies. He may not have done anything illegal. There could have been some embarrassing things for Donald Trump, which I'm fine. I actually don't think he might have done anything illegal, but he might have known other people in there doing illegal. So again, it's very difficult for you to be a billionaire and not part of this 1% club. And what does this 1% club want to do? They want to continue to get rich, and they want to keep you out of it. And that's the problem with the American dream. And I should do videos on Amazon's a great example. But in order to have American dream and capitalism, you have to have two words. It's called fair competition. That's it's the same thing, whether it's a boxing match. Sometimes it doesn't matter who wins per se, but if they both box fair, we always say, let the winner win. Let the best man win. That's like capitalism, but you have to have fair competition. We don't have fair competition anymore because these global corporations have bought up the United States government, changed the laws. Look at it. For me to go to court where I was with Boeing and also Amazon, and I saw the difference in China and America, the legal system protects the rich, which are also the corporations. And so I think we would all agree, just use this example. We'll get back to Scott Galloway, but picture this if you're a billionaire. Picture the amount of sway you can have in our legal system. I mean, that's what happened to me with the Boeing. The corrupt judge colluded with Boeing, and Boeing said, don't let this case go to court. In China, I was able to go to court, and I won. If I was able to go to court in America and I would have a jury of my peers, I would have won. I spent $50,000 of my own money. I said this, if you spend $50,000 and you could say you're a normal person, that's a lot of money. That was a lot of money. I knew I was going to win. Any person with common sense knows I was going to win. I never imagined that the federal judge, after spending $50,000 and doing 3 years of petitioning to get, going through the judicial process, there was never, ever a time where myself and my lawyer thought that the case would get thrown out and I would never go to court. The judge did that. To American military veteran who fought and defended my country, all I wanted to do was have my day in court. Now, if I lost in court to a jury of my peers, that's a different story. Then we can argue. But I knew I was going to win, and I wanted my day in court. Something that we could all agree on as an American citizen. You should have your fair day in court, just like a fair competition. The equal opportunities, an equal opportunity to present your case. The Chinese government allowed me to do it. Pretty simple, pretty fast, and that case was decided in less than a day. That case, boom. That's all I want. And I'm an American citizen, military veteran, and that started opening my eyes. Just part of it. This system is absolutely rigged. And we're going to go into it again. We could talk about the Somali thing, but I think what eventually Americans are going to do, and you got to go back to the Revolutionary War, until you finally say, this is what I did, I'm not paying taxes anymore in this system. They're not going to change. I think it was the Boston Tea Party. So in case you didn't know the history, there were two significant things. Maybe you do. If you do, you do. Part of it was the reason why they dressed up as Indians was to hide their faces. Kind of like Antifa. Again, I don't have a problem with Antifa on face value. Again, we have the same enemy, people. I'm not saying in the long run we're brothers, but even back then they needed to disguise their identity. This is the I think it was called the Boston Tea Party. This is where the Patriots dumped the British tea into the harbors as a form of rebellion. So one is the reason they dressed up as Indians is to hide their identity from the authorities. Sort of seeing that in today's day and age. Makes sense to me. The second is I believe the amount of value in that tea. I got to remember it was in the millions. I'm not going to put the figure right now, but because there's obviously the difference in how much money it was there and compared to now, it was in the millions. The point being is a very big protest. And what is the key to the protest? You got to stop paying taxes. The point is if this government, no matter what they do, at the end of the day, if you say, I will continue to eat my shit sandwich and I will continue to pay my taxes, why should they change? I want that to seep in. It's the same thing like a corporation. If they want to pay you really crappy wages and you're not going to strike, you're not going to quit, you're not going to come into work with guns, you're going to say, boss, can we get some more money? I'm barely affording a family. I can't afford this. This is like below minimum wage. It's illegal. Who knows? It doesn't matter the scenario. If the corporations say, what are you going to do about it? And you say, nothing. I'm going to protest. I'm going to vote. Oh, good luck with that. Yeah, that's fine. But are you still going to come to work? Yes. Then me as the corporate greedy CEO, then I don't have a problem. Now picture the United States government. I get it. You see to the MAGA people, we got to vote, man. Oh yeah, vote. Keep up the voting. I'm sure George Washington would agree with you on that. Keep voting. But here I am as the government. Same thing with the Somalis. With this. And again, people ask me, they should have never got citizenship to America in the first place. Yeah, our founding fathers built a European country, not an African country, not a Muslim country. It is what it is. I have no problem with Africans. I have no problem with Islam. There's a time and a place. It ain't called America, and it ain't called Europe. But anyway, we're the government. Whatever you do, yeah, have fun with your protests. Have fun. Yeah, go out and vote. Yeah, go. Now people are like saying, now we got to vote for what is it, Gavin Newsom in California, or like, hey man, no, JD Vance. JD Vance will fix it. Okay. Are you still going to pay your taxes though? I'm the governor. Are you still going to pay your taxes every year? And you're like, yeah. Then why should I change? Why should I change? There has to be a sense of pain. Part of leadership is, and we learn this from parents, right? When a child misbehaves, there's got to be some type of pain. It doesn't necessarily have to be physical punishment, but I've always said guns and violence have changed the world. I mean, if you're really looking for change, guns and violence, but it could be economic too. That's what America does. We sanction. So it could be economic pain. It could be physical pain. That's called the revolution. But what's the pain you're going to do? And most Americans, they will talk. Look at me. It's a small drop in the bucket, but it's something. I don't pay my U.S. taxes. I left. It's something. What if more Americans would not pay their taxes? That's how the Revolutionary War started. If you stop paying your taxes, and that's why I keep saying, I think the future is not the federal system. I think it's the state system. We're about to go to Scott Galloway. Just give me a second. But I think in the future, that's what I'm saying. I believe the federal government in Washington, D.C., it's over. It's kind of like the Doge. I think the Doge was a good college try. You know, it had good intention. They like that. Nothing's going to happen. So the point is, it's going to come to a time, instead of trying to find where the fraud is, where's it? It's just, I'm not going to pay tax anymore. Now, how's that going to be in America? Well, it's going to be two things. And we'll repeat this. Either one, Americans are going to leave, and they'll leave. I got to do more videos on this. In fact, the next video I'm going to do is America is going to start garnishing the wages of student loans. Now, some people might not have any sympathy. I'll give an interesting point on student loans next time. But one of the ways you could get out of paying your student loans, I never realized, is you leave America. I'll do it. Kids are leaving. If you leave America, you'll never have to pay your student loans. So the point is, coming back to taxes. One, you're going to see you're going to start seeing more and more people leave America, number one. Two, you are going to see a governor. Sooner or later, state politics is going to hit, and this is sort of like a civil war. State politics, certain governor or governors together are going to come up and say, we are done with Washington, D.C. The same reason that people are leaving blue states and going to red states to avoid state taxes. Let's face it. Economics is one of the biggest reasons people are leaving these blue states, going, even corporations, they're tired of being taxed in California. You know, a lot of it's about the money. And then you're going to start seeing in the future, a state governor is going to say, come to my state. We don't pay federal tax anymore. Now that's going to be a lightning rod to Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is going to say, you are going to pay taxes. And I'll explain how that's going to work. They're going to send the FBI to arrest, and there's push. This is where it's going. But sooner or later, Americans are going to realize that we can't really find the fraud. It's too complicated. It's like trying to audit the Department of War. There is so much fraud, waste, and abuse in the federal. You're never going to find it. And so the best way to do it is just say, I'm not going to pay tax anymore. But there's only really two options if you do that. And maybe a third, you stay in America, but you're living in the mountains or something, and you live off the grid. That's possible. Two is you leave. Or three, for lack of a better word, we're waiting. A lot of people think Trump is it. I don't. Trump is awesome. I've always said the best is yet to come. It'll be in a state governor. And that state governor is going to say, we don't pay federal taxes here. You don't think how many Americans would try to flood that state just like they do. But that state governor is going to need protection. And you're already feeling, by then the collapse is already going in, where people, the same reason you elected this governor, are going to say the corruption of Washington, D.C. is gotten so bad, we are not paying taxes anymore. It's going to get like that. We'll keep going to Scott Galloway, but I hope to remember these points. And I want to emphasize again, if you're continuing to pay your taxes into this system, why should they change? And you might say, well, I'm going to vote and I'm going to get someone. I mean, okay, we'll see. Donald Trump, this is his second term. He's already finished 1 year in presidency. We'll see. JD Vance is going to fix it. All right, keep kicking, keep voting. I don't think so. But let's go back to Scott Galloway and see what he's got to say.
The wealthiest people in the world should get exceptionally more wealthy. Minimum wage stuck at $9.25. Stock market is screamed up. The average 70-year-old is 72% wealthier than they were 40 years ago. The average person under the age of 40 is 24% less wealthy. We are purposely transferring more wealth from the poor and middle class and the upper class to the super rich, and from young to old.
And you say in the book, which is true and alarming, but let's say a 30-year-old American in America right now is doing no better than his or her parents. Then that's a new thing in American history that you would think over time, we want to do better than the next generation, than the last generation. It's not happening anymore.
I think it all ties into what we're talking about on campuses. For the first time in our nation's history, a 30-year-old man or woman isn't doing as well as his or her parents were at 30. That is the social compact breaking down. People aged 30 to 34, 60% of them in 1990 had one child. Now it's 27%. People are opting out of them.
And I say this again with the capitalism. Well, this is if you have a company and it is not profitable in the long run, then you don't have a successful company. You have a company that's going to go bankrupt. If you have a country that cannot self-reproduce in the long run, and you have to import people, that is not a viable, successful country. That will collapse in the long run. And one of the reasons Americans are not reproducing, one of the main reasons, is economics. It's too expensive.
America, they're not optimistic about it. They're not having kids. Young people aren't having sex. They're not meeting. They're not mating. The pool of emotionally and economic.
Not having sex. I mean, think about with the typical women, they want you to take them out to dinner. I can't imagine the typical young man trying to save money, and then he takes a woman out. She wants to go to a nice restaurant. She's a whore. She's probably had sex already with 50 or more dudes. He's probably just a number. And so she wants another free dinner. But, even this so-called romance, most women don't know it. That could be pretty expensive for a typical average man. So the man says, so the woman says, what are you going to do on the date? I would advise, I don't know, go to the park, bring a, who knows? I mean, bring a sandwich or an apple, do something. Hey, at the end of the day, you want to get to know each other. It's not about the food or the meals, at least for the man. The woman it is. But he proposes some cheap, could be a romantic date though. He's like, hey, let's go to the park and watch the sunset. Yeah, she's not interested. She wants money. She wants a nice dinner. Like I said, the typical American man, that could be a big ask, especially knowing that this girl is probably just maybe using him for a free meal. She's screwing 3 other guys, even in the moment. So this whole romance and dating, yeah, easy to say for women. Most guys are like, it's too expensive.
Economically viable men shrinks every day, which lessens household formation. So we have a real issue. Young people are enraged. So it turns every cut, every movement into an opportunistic infection because, quite frankly, they are just pissed off. They look up, they see wealth, exceptional wealth across my.
Yeah, I could tell you, I could just imagine the anger building. I should do the video on this federal judge who dropped my case, who didn't allow me to go. And I wrote her 3 times. There's still stuff about it that maybe I haven't broadcast enough on how much this woman destroyed my life. Yeah, this woman could take a bullet in her head for all I care. The amount of corruption of these elites destroying the lives of patriotic American men, it would amaze me if the amount of rage in America is not building to the point that sooner or later, oh yeah, revolution's coming. I just would be amazed that I cannot be going. There has got to be so many other pissed off young men, particularly white men, but I would even say probably even other men, Black men are probably pissed off. I mean, especially the men in America. We're losing this country. Rage is building. And I'm telling you, I still put my money on guns and ammo that's going to solve this problem.
Generation and people in certain industries, and they are really struggling. Their purchasing power is going down, and the incumbents create artificial scarcity on campus. We take pride in rejecting 90% of our applicants. So the incumbents who already have a degree see the degree go up in value. We get very concerned with housing and traffic once we own the housing. Housing permits are sequestered from young people. Housing prices have gone from $290 to $420 in the last 4 years. So a young person, a house, stocks that I don't own skyrocket in value. Let's have COVID relief and flush the markets and take assets way up because of a million.
Let me just give you a quick example on how this system is rigged. Back when capitalism should be capitalism, you go bankrupt, you go bankrupt. Look at remember in the 2008 financial crisis, all these banks are getting bailed out. Like the average American man thinks it's okay to bail out Wall Street. Let them go broke. People are like, no, but if the banks go under, then let the country fall. That's how I would look at it. I'm not bailing out these bankers anymore. Look at the COVID, all these special, I mean, that's what I keep saying. It's getting to the point, if you think this fraud, waste, and abuse with your tax money is going to get fixed, it will never get fixed. The only way to do it is just stop paying taxes. It is so complicated. There are so many cookie holes and cookie cutters on what's going on with you're never going to find it. You're never, until people just sort of like with me say, I'm just not going to pay my tax anymore. That's, I really think, the only way that's going to fix it.
And people dying would be bad, would be tragic if I got less wealthy. And we're doing it on their credit card. Young people have every reason to be enraged, and every issue they see, they look up, they get angry, and they see someone doing better than them. And then every day it is speedballed in their face that they are failing, that they are not doing as well as everyone around them. We have lost the script. Our kids are more anxious and more depressed and more obese and more addicted. And we have made a purposeful decision to let this happen by ensuring the people around this table stay wealthy at the cost.
Like I said, I'll do more videos on what happened to me working for Amazon and Boeing. Talk about, again, Amazon and Boeing are no longer private companies. They are part of the American government. So when you work for Boeing and it's like basically working for partially the American government, meaning there's a higher level of ethics responsibility. It's not like working for a mom and pop store where you just got Joe Blow, Mr. American, who's corrupt, which is bad. But when you're talking Amazon and Boeing, they represent the American government because your tax money is funneled into these corporations. So these corporations are getting rich also with your tax. What happened to me in China with those two corporations, fucking traitors. I keep telling you, when that CEO got just smoked in, I think it was the United Health CEO. I don't know anything about him. I don't have sympathy. That's all I could say. For Boeing and Amazon or this federal judge, I'm popping champagne. If those people get smoked, I am popping champagne because I have personal experience. They're fucking evil. Fucking evil. Same thing like I said, this FBI. You think I'm wrong with this FBI? How many FBI directors have been fired by now? You happy with Kash Patel? Give it time. There's still a romance with Trump. You know, hey, Kash is going to fix it. Oh, I'm like Dan Bongino really fixed it. That fake fuck. But anyway, you give it time. I am telling you, anger is going to build. And the problem with Donald Trump is no matter what happens in America, him and his rich kids, they're going to be eating steak and lobster in Mar-a-Lago. But like I said, I can't think of a better politician, you know, at least on the federal level. But I'm telling you, someone's coming on the state level. Someone is coming on that state level, and they're going to change the system. They are going to change the system. I have no doubt, because otherwise, guns and ammo are coming.
To young people.
So Scott, what the social element of that's the economic element, the social elements that you mentioned, the happiness, the anxiety, all of those things, that kids aren't getting together anymore, that they're not having kids. What happened in one generation? Social media has to play a role in it, I'm sure. But what else do you see that has created this climate for this generation?
Well, you know, and he asked that. These things happen slowly over time. And it's a combination of many things. Where the 1% was getting richer, we're talking multiculturalism, immigration, feminism. And I would say is, what do I keep saying? What made America great? Look at our founding fathers. They were strong white men from Western Europe. And what do I keep saying? Faith, family, freedom. How is Christianity done in America? It's decline. How are European racially and even culturally in America? Decline. What about freedom of speech? Decline. So I would say, look at those three. How has Christianity been doing in America through the decades? How has our European DNA and culture been doing through the decades? How has freedom, just freedom of speech, been doing through the decades? Just look at those three factors.
I think you have the most talented, well-resourced people in the world and companies trying to convince a young man that he can have a reasonable facsimile of life in his basement behind a screen. You don't need friends. Go on Reddit or Discord. You don't need to get a job. Go on Robinhood or Coinbase and trade crypto and stocks. You don't need to go through the rejection and the expense and the humiliation and working out and having.
I disagree with this, Scott. Let me just, I've said this before and I need to repeat this again because I think it's really important. And so, Leadership 101. So I don't know if this guy was CNN, whatever. The journalist asked Scott, why is this happening? Stuff like that. Leadership 101. First, we have to recognize there's a problem. In 2010, I knew we had a big problem and I left. Most people, I felt, disagreed with me. So now 15 years later, the first step in leadership is, do we have a problem? I think it's changed now. I think now most Americans have changed since I left in 2010 and said, David, I agree with you. We have a problem. Step two, though, is the solution. That's where we could differ. I have more of a nationalist, you could say white nationalist theory of how it should. You could say communist. We get it. But the point being is we've admitted there's a problem, but we're not quite sure what the solution is done. So what have I said before? It's just like you're a commander or leader. The answers are out there. You as a leader need to figure out where are those answers. Do they have a channel to your ear and you can understand them? So what would be the biggest things I would tell this journalist? Well, we now agree we have a problem. So now let's figure out the solution. Probably censoring people on media is not the way to go. Why? Because there's probably many Americans out there who do have the answer to solve this problem in America. But if you censor them, we're never going to know. It's kind of like the military commander, unless you're confident that you have the solution. But if you're a military commander and you're like, okay, we have a problem, sometimes you will form the troops, especially on your level, whether you're on a battalion level, divisional level, company level, you'll get at least those troop level leaders around you. Just like anything, brainstorm, say, all right, gentlemen, what do we have? Who thinks what's going on? What's the solution? And you sort of go around the room. No, you're an idiot. That's a stupid idea. Maybe. Whoa, never thought about that. Good job, Captain. Good job, Colonel. Good job, Brigadier General. This is what we do. But if we censor speech, and we all know it, the First Amendment is dead in America. That's why I wouldn't thank the military for their service. I would thank ICE. I'm very against law enforcement, generally what I did. But if you're an ICE agent who's deporting illegal aliens, good job. I thank you for your service. Military, though, I'm not generally thanking for their service. Why? Because the First Amendment is dead, and they're not defending that. So back to the point with this journalist. We have a problem. Okay, so we've agreed on that. Because like I said, in 2010, people did not agree with me. I think now people are going to agree with me. We have a problem. But they may not agree with my solution. That's fine. If you don't agree with my solution, then what's your solution? And what the journalist says is, I don't know. Okay, well then let's ask other people. Well, we can't. Why? Because they're censored. That's not a good idea. So maybe, think about it. How many white men in America are thinking, wow, we need more censorship or less? Just think about that. Particularly to white men, because we're the most censored in America. Ask yourself, white men in America, more censorship or less? You probably know the answer. We probably need less. And by having less censorship, maybe the channels of communication will inflow, and maybe some people's got a solution. Again, you might disagree with my solution. We'll just call it white nationalism. There's some other parts. But we do agree there's a problem. And if you don't want my solution, well, how are you going to find the real solution? Well, if you have censorship, good luck with that. So I'd say one thing is, let's stop censoring people. Let's let this First Amendment flow. Let's let this phoenix rise from its grave, and let's get freedom of speech back in America. And then perhaps we'll know the solution. Maybe smarter heads will prevail, and those good ideas will come. And maybe I'm wrong. So we do agree there's a problem, but maybe my solution's not the right solution, someone else. But if you're censoring these people, you're never going to know. All right, let's go back to Scott Holloway, see what he's got to say.
Plan and humor and showering to get a romantic relationship, you have you porn. So we have an entire generation, especially of young men, who are out home sequestering from society and missing out on what it means. There's a reason romantic comedies are 2 hours and not 15 minutes. True victory in life is hard. Going out, meeting someone, finding mentors, finding mates, that stuff is hard, but that's what real victory in real life is like. And because a lot of men feel rejected on dating apps, the number of jobs that are accessible to them has gone down. You have essentially a group of men who are saying, I want a low-risk entry into life, and they go down a rabbit hole. When they don't have social connections, and they don't get out, and they don't have the prospect of a romantic relationship, they're more prone to conspiracy theory, they're more prone to misogynistic content, they're less likely to believe in climate change, and some become really bad citizens. We are producing too many of the most dangerous person in the world, and that is a young...
Probably too many single mothers. Imagine what America would be for every single mother you replaced it with a single father. It's a pretty interesting. I should do videos on this, where women have been overrated. I definitely think when it comes to babies, mothers will have an advantage, but generally raising children. Just ask yourself though, what if for every single mother there was in America, she was replaced with a single father? Think how our children would be. What's your guess on that?
Broke and lonely young man.
Why is it that so many of these young people that you're talking about seem...
See how many fucking retarded people there are who don't know this? I mean, here's an old white man who's probably a fucking boomer, who probably still thinks the best thing we did was kill the Nazis. I mean, he's just notice that they have no clue. No clue. Again, I would first say is this: how is freedom of speech doing in America? Not very good. So I would probably say the first thing to do is stop censoring Americans. But you kind of realize how clueless these people are. They're like, I don't know, I don't know what's going on with these men, and it just doesn't. Really, you don't see it. Again, I started seeing in 2005, 2010. I left. And this fucking government is still coming after me. It is unbelievable how bad this is getting. In fact, if it wasn't so bad, Donald Trump probably wouldn't have got elected. The reason why Donald Trump got elected is because the majority of Americans are realizing we have a major problem. And I keep saying, you haven't seen anything yet. Nothing.
To head into life after going to 4-year schools or 2-year schools or whatever, head into life with a lack of financial literacy. They don't know anything about money or the growth of money. All they know is the absence of money.
I think we need to have in our curriculums in high school a class on adulting. My kid, I see it in my house. My kid can do integers and basic calculus, but he doesn't understand the interest on his credit card. So there's just some basic kind of financial literacy that we're...
I don't know, maybe for every female high school teacher, if you replace it with a male high school teacher, ask yourself how better schools would be.
Not teaching. And when you start replacing civics with computer science, you lose a sense of the country and you start learning about programming. And when you don't talk about basic financial literacy or even mating, I would like to see in the senior year of college mating dynamics and help men understand, and women, what is unique to them and their vulnerabilities to social media. I was talking about the challenges of men from social media. At exactly the wrong time in a young girl's life, she is presented with a valuation where she never gets to leave the high school cafeteria 24/7. And as my colleague Jonathan Haidt has pointed out, we've seen a dramatic uptick in suicide. But I think effectively, we just don't have basic skills for young people. We're teaching them advanced.
All right, that's enough. He did it. Again, I think one of the best things to look at is probably fathers. It's common sense. You destroy the father, you destroy the family. You destroy the family, you destroy the country. So, meaning a lot of this stuff about why aren't young boys, that a lot of this is the father's job. Well, the fathers. I need to do a video too on marriage laws. The whole marriage, everything. Trust me, this system will change. It needs to have more pain. The pain that's coming to America has not even been close. That's why there's not been change, as you can imagine. Like, David, why you have not seen the pain yet? Once the pain comes, all this stuff about changing it, it's going to happen. The modern marriage laws are in such a favor of women. Again, I know this now living in China. It's unbelievable how we are the matriarch in America. But why should we change? There's not enough pain. Meaning there's not enough white men that are just saying, fuck this. So, but again, going back to why as in this young boys, the father, that's the first goal. Where's the father? And again, we destroyed the father, we destroyed the family, destroyed the country. Let's do another video on this again, on another topic here, or the same thing, but another, we'll see how this, I think this is a short one right here, short clip it. Let's see what this guy's got to say.
Have a rich public, that rich public spends its money. That fuels the economy, and the rich get richer, and the poor get richer, and the middle class gets richer. And Nixon and Reagan and most of the politicians over the last 44 years, their goal has been to upend that system and send us the other direction. So in 1973, the top 1% made 8% of the wealth generated that year. Today, the top 1% makes more than 40% of the wealth. Wow. The next 15% make another 40%. So the top 16% in the US makes 80% of the wealth. In other words, this idea of the American dream is gone. There's no middle class. The middle class has been eviscerated. The bottom 84% share 20% of the wealth. One of the things the US figured out.
Okay, so the reason why I like to say that is, and again, this is where the left and the right, we can work together, because I see this all the time. If you complain about the system and you're not this is not capitalism anymore. I mean, what are you, a moron? Is that what we're going to do in America? That in another 30 years, the wealth is going to go from the 1% to the 0.1%, and then the 0.001%? What are we doing? It's not going to, you need, and it's always been, you need a strong middle class. And then you're always going to have an upper class of rich people. You're going to have lower income. I don't like the idea of a poor class, but we are just, there's going to be no more middle class. It's basically going to be poor, and you're going to have this super rich. And because they're so rich, they are going to be infused with the government. And that's what I'm talking about. Where you see Boeing and Amazon, these are not private corporations anymore. These are publicly traded, indoctrinated, fully incorporated with the United States government, which means your taxpayer money. And what does that mean? When you control the economics and you control the law, meaning the government, they control the system. And what do they want to do? They're going to be, it's monopolized. And what is one thing that a capitalist society always needs to stand against? Monopolies. Because what did I keep saying? Without fair competition, you don't have capitalism. We don't have fair competition anymore. Let's take a look at another video here, and then I'll wrap it up. Okay, so this is interesting. This is talking about tax the rich, and let me just play this. It's not too long. Yeah, let me play this, and we'll talk.
Wealth of every single American household. That includes cars, houses, yachts, jewelry, and even cold hard cash. It also includes things we owe other people, like student loans. So let's take a quick tour of American household wealth. We can start over here, where we see people who owe way more than they have. As we move further right, we can see, oh, that's me. And there's my doctor, who owns an expensive home. And there's former heavyweight boxer Mike Tyson. But when we get to the very richest people in the world, oh hey, it's Beyonce. We can zoom out so far that this chart looks like a stick, and we still can't see the top of their wealth. Because these people are so much wealthier than the rest of us. In other words, this chart doesn't just show wealth, it shows the staggering wealth inequality we have in America. But recently, politicians have been talking about an idea that's never been done before in America. To even out wealth, we should tax it. In January, Senator Elizabeth Warren proposed something called a wealth tax. This was a big deal because this doesn't typically get taxed. Most of the taxes we pay only happen when money changes hands, like when we earn money or spend money. But according to Warren, here's the problem with that. This bar represents my wealth, and this is my friend's wealth. I think he owns a yacht. But because both of us have the same job and earn about the same amount of money, our income gets taxed about the same.
Two people who may have the same income, but
No, I'm not a fan of Elizabeth Warren. We're going to talk about the tax system really quick when I end it, though.
are in wildly different economic circumstances.
So to fix it, Warren wants to tax the actual wealth people have, but only for the very, very rich. Here's her proposal. All the wealth above this line, $50 million, would be taxed at 2% each year. All the wealth above this line, $1 billion, would be taxed at 3%. So if you have $40 million, you'd pay nothing.
Oh.
If you have $60 million,
All right, we don't need to go into the thing. Let me talk about this with tax. Because you'll also get a lot of capitalists like, I'm not into tax. Or you'll hear this bullshit. If we tax the billionaires, they're going to leave America. They won't. They won't. They might go to another white country. So they're always, they're not. You think these rich people are going to go to China? They're going to go to India? They're not going to go to what's called ethnic fascist countries because that wealth is gone. So they're dependent on democracy. They're not. They might go to Canada. They will stay in these white. So I don't believe in this thing. If you tax them, they're going to leave. Go to a non-Western country. They're not. They're going to stay in the West. So here's something else, though, that I always like to do, and that is you see that we're going to end this here. And I want to focus on this because part of the reason why the rich are so rich, it is taxes. In fact, I think Donald Trump said it many times. He goes, I do everything I can. We're assuming he means legally. I doubt it. To pay the least amount of money in taxes I can. But we all know, but it is a major, and in fact, even in Amazon, it's one of the major issues of why the rich are so rich, like Elon, they don't pay their tax. So here's the argument. You've seen this before. You've seen this pro-capitalistic person with a communist. This is like, I could be there. I'm telling you, it could be far right or far, it doesn't matter. And the capitalist or the billionaire is going to say, you're wrong. You're not educated. We corporations, we elite billionaires, we pay just as much tax as you or more. That's the argument. And they come up with these bullshit data things that doesn't mean anything. We, on the other hand, might say, no way, not even close. So now we're going to do something called leadership, because at the end of the day, there's a difference between the typical consultant where you have to be able to walk the walk. Sort of like me when I left America. So here we go. Go back to leadership. We have the rich corporations, the rich billionaire, and his argument is you are just an uneducated person. We rich corporations, whatever, we pay just as much as you or more. My argument, similar like yours probably would say, is you're wrong. Then they put this data up, and then you're left like, no. It's very simple with leadership. So I'm looking at the rich globalists and say, you really think you pay more taxes than us? Okay. So if all of a sudden taxes were abolished, no one would have to pay any taxes anymore. You would come out ahead. Because you have just said the corporations, the elites, pay more taxes than us regular people. So you would be having a more economic advantage in the amount of money you would save. Because again, my proposal is no more taxes now. Let's do it. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't believe in anarchy. Because this is where we're going to go. It's going to go to anarchy. Anarchy is not a state of government in the long run. It is a transition. And we are going to experience anarchy. So I'm okay for zero taxes, but any government I know we have to pay taxes. But we're at this time, it's sort of like playing chicken. You go to these rich people, really? You want to put your dick on the table? Then let's put our dicks on the table. Let's go. You think you pay more taxes? I think I pay more taxes. So let's abolish taxes. No more taxes. Are you happy with it? See what they'll say. And if they say, fine, let's not pay it, then you, as a regular commoner, do it. Sooner or later, we got to go there. I don't think they will. I don't think they will. And so the point is if they're not willing to agree to this or say this is crazy, it's sort of hints, because again, there's talk the talk and walk the walk. And if they're not even willing to entertain this, then you probably know that they are leeching more off this system than you, everyday person, is. And so you pay into this system, well, you want to get something out. These corporations, on a percentage-wise, are not paying in as much as you, and they're taking out percentage-wise much more. Think about the military. Here's just something. We have the military flooded. I think it's over like 150 countries around the world. Your tax money's paying for that. Are they protecting you? They're not. They're protecting the corporations. So if you're Joe Blow, you don't have a Coca-Cola factory in India that needs protecting with your tax money with the U.S. military. You could say, dude, I'm fine to just drink Coca-Cola made or whatever, soda pop, whatever you want to do, beverage made in America. The corporations, though, need to go global. So they need to utilize more benefits from the American system. One would be military security, intelligence, all this stuff. Well, you're not getting it. So I say again, and we're going to leave it at that just to show you the line of corruption, do it. But you see this argument all the time. The rich say, no, you're uneducated. We pay just as much or higher percentage-wise in taxes than you, the common person. And the common person says, no, I disagree. Then they do these bullshit data points, and you're like, well, they make it look like an idiot. I guess you're right. I guess you're. No. Then I agree with you, Mr. Corporation, Mr. Billionaire. You do pay more taxes than me, percentage-wise, whatever. Meaning you're getting screwed more than me in terms of taxes. That's what you say. Let's abolish taxes then. Let's abolish it. So it's going to help me a little as the normal man, but it's going to help you a lot because you just said you pay more into this system than I do. So let's just abolish it. I don't care. I'll roll the dice. This is what you're going to have to get. It's going to get dangerous time. Then roll the dice. They won't do it. So I say again, the problem with capitalism is when I grew up as a child, generally speaking, the rich, there's always going to be corruption, but generally speaking, you looked upon rich people, rich corporations as they just worked harder than you. They were smarter than you. They took more risk than you. And you are a loser because you're dumb, lazy, and you're afraid to take risks. That's generally how I was raised. That system, though, I don't believe it anymore. I really don't. I believe now it is true that those in power, those who have money, have manipulated this system to where you, the common, are not getting up there. Just that court case I had with Boeing. Remember, Boeing Corporation is like the American government. So I was up with the American, meaning they represent the American government. This is not a mom and a pop store where you could say that guy is corrupt. This is the Boeing Corporation. If the Boeing Corporation is corrupt, it's like saying the American government's corrupt. And I saw the Chinese justice system and the American, and remember, I'm an American citizen, military veteran. If there was ever a system where I should get favored, you probably would think it would be America. Oh, look at him. He's a West Point grad, served his company, military veteran. Absolutely. Just my day in court. So I see again, this system is just change. And I'm going to end it with this. I see Shane. Yeah, I'll read the comment. I don't believe the same bullshit that says, well, the way to fix it is go out there and vote. And I think MAGA people in particular are going to wake up when they realize that Trump is great, but he got to fix the system. He's already been in office for a year, his second term, a year now in his second term. Let's see how this thing goes. And I do think MAGA people are probably going to wake up when they finally realize when Trump has been, his second year or maybe his second term comes to a close, and they realize that this system is not really going to work or get fixed without, it's going to go guns and ammo. It's going to go to guns and ammo. And then they're going to realize that you're not going to be able to vote your way out of this solution. And as you're going to start realizing the more and more corruption you are, just like the issue with Somalia. Why are you paying your taxes? I knew that. The amount of fraud, waste, and abuse I saw in the intelligence community, but I still think probably the Department of War, the defense, it takes the cake when you look at government, I'm only talking about government, fraud, waste, and abuse. I would say the Department of Defense, Department of War, they take the cake. Oh my God, how many people should be fired and shit canned and programmed? It is crazy. And so the point is Americans are like, no, we need another Doge. It's like the hound dog. The hound dog. We're going to get a hound dog, and they're going to sniff out all this corruption. It's too much. And the only way you're going to do it is going to say, forget the hound dog, forget Doge, forget voting. I'm just not going to pay taxes anymore. Now, if we start doing that as a whole, that's going to wake them up. It will. It will wake them up. Will that happen? Eventually, it's going that way. Because like I said, the pain is not there. It's going that way. But like I said, we'll end it here and I'll go to questions. But if you think, and I'm looking at, I get the left wing folks, they get it. But if you on the right wing think, well, this is capitalism, and if you're just against this system, you're just a lazy communist and you're anti-capitalism. No, you're a moron. This is no longer capitalism. I don't know. I'm taking a guess. Maybe 30 years ago, maybe 40, 50, it started shifting. This is not capitalism anymore. So if Fox News wants to argue with you and say, you're just anti-cap, they're morons. And who do the Fox News work for? The corporations. They're sellouts. Let me go Giovanni's Dam. I missed the whole cast on this. Giovanni. Shane, the system functions as actually corporate welfare. Shane, I want to do a comment on you. Shane did a private message with me, and it relates to this. It's about the Vietnam War. Shane, I read your comment. Let me do this, and it relates to this. My father and my uncle both volunteered for Vietnam. My family goes back in America to the Civil War. Everyone volunteered. And I remember he told me this story. And the reason why it's important now, it's with the corporations and it's about corruption. We ain't going to do it anymore. And I would talk with him. I said, hey, Dad, don't you think, and we studied this at West Point, we lost the Vietnam War. It was screwed up. We screwed over our own soldiers. It was this. And I said, don't you have regrets? It was a bad war. We shouldn't have got. And what he told me is the essence of patriotism. But today, I wouldn't do the draft. I mean, if you were, I really think you will maintain your honorable status as particularly a white American man by dodging the draft. So the world has changed. So this is what he told me. He said, David, I agree with you. Looking back on the Vietnam War, it was a fucked up war. We should not have gotten involved. So I said, so you agree with me? You should not have went to Vietnam. He goes, I disagree. He goes, I still did the right thing. I said, why? He goes, David, we cannot live in a country anymore. He used the word country. I used the word corporation. We're not a country anymore. We are a corporation. So you got to remember, if we live in a country, I would agree with my father. We don't. We live in a corporation. He said, if we cannot live in a country where the men pick and choose which wars they fight. Like, I'm going to fight in that war. Nah, that war I don't agree with. Nah. When your country calls upon you, you have to have faith that they are sending you to war in good faith and you let things roll. But it is your duty to answer the call. I agree with that logic. If you're living in a country where the government serves you, you serve them, you whatever, your patriotism, loyalty, those days are done. Those days are done. We now live in something called a corporation. Hey, you think Donald Trump is going to send his kids? I mean, this is also why you expect the commander-in-chief, politicians to serve in the military. It ain't happening anymore. So now we have a corporation, our government, our country's a corporation. And now would I answer the call to the government to go to these wars? No, but hell no. But again, it goes back with these because these corporations are controlling us. So when the corruption gets so bad that, I put this digit point on, data point. Do you really think we could do a draft? I really want to know, who are these moron, particularly young white men who would be like my father? But again, that was a different time period back then. I guess that would have been the 60s and the 70s. Now, with today's government, how white men are treated, Christian, if you're a white man who's like, well, my government calls upon me, I got to go out there, and if I die, I die. I would be like, oh my God, whatever. He's a lost cause. Where the other white guy, because remember, I made fun of these guys growing up. The other white guy says, hey, David, I'm packing my bags and I'm heading to Canada, man. Fuck this government. I am not dying for these people. I'm like, that is a smart man. And he has no issues with ethics or morality or honor. Because how can you be disloyal to a disloyal corporation? I specifically didn't use the word government. It's a corporation. It's a globalist corporation. And I like Trump, but him and his rich kids, who also never served in the military, and they won't, you know that. You really think if we went to war and there was a draft, his little Baron is going to get drafted? I doubt it. He's probably going to look at Baron. He's going to say, Baron, your DNA is too hot. You are too smart to die in this war. Let these other low-life Americans, I'm doing tongue-in-cheek, but you probably could get it. Let these other low-life Americans die for this country. You are of royal bloodline. You are not going to die. Now, you might agree or disagree with Donald Trump saying that to his son, but I think you would probably agree with me. His kid ain't going to go into the military. None of us say. He didn't. I mean, I think Donald Trump also skipped down on the Vietnam War. So either way, this system called a corrupt globalist corporation, the American government, it's going down. And part of it is we have lost faith in these systems. To even get a person like me speaking here, it just shows you how fucked up our systems have become. And it's because of one thing, and I need to do a leadership course on this. It really comes down to weak men. We have weak men. We have weak men at West Point, the FBI, the CIA, the government, everyone. And we are being run by greedy globalists. And because there's weak men, they'll do anything for a paycheck, really. They'll sell their own mother. Okay, let me just look at Shane, no chance. I mean, I have drastically changed. So Shane mentioned about the draft. I cannot believe how I changed. As a child, I would look down upon people who dodged the Vietnam draft. I told you that. I have totally changed now. I mean, if you dodged the draft now, I would be like, oh, that guy's got common sense. I mean, think about it. I think Donald Trump dodged the draft. I think he did, which that's going to be a difficult part. I mean, if you go back in the records, I think he had bone spurs, something like bullshit thing. But someone could probably make the case that he dodged the draft. Well, that's going to be pretty difficult as a military leader, commander-in-chief, to impose the draft in America, to say, hey, Donald, you dodged the draft in Vietnam. Why can't I dodge the draft now? It ain't going to work. However you slice or dice this system, I am telling you, every year it is going to get worse until people realize it's just not going to be saved. And people are going to either do three things. You're going to leave the country. You're going to be like a mountain man. You're just going to live off the grid, or you're going to realize state politics. State politics is your only answer. So Giovanni, he said what? He higher educated out? Oh, so what does that mean, Giovanni? He said he was going to do a master's degree or something like that. He was going to do higher education, which technically that is also a class system. So you've got a poor, and I think it was like that. I really disagree with that. But here in America, so you've got the money to go to college. You could get out of the draft, and some guy who can't afford college. I don't necessarily like that idea. I mean, if you want to go to college, then fine, go into the military as an officer. But I mean, I wasn't around in Vietnam, and I guarantee a lot of people did this and that to get out of it. But just guess the amount of people in Vietnam who wiggled their way unethically to get out of the war. What do you think would happen now? It would be exponential now, meaning, in fact, it would be so exponential to get out of the draft. I think it would be mainstream. Whereas in American Vietnam, the mainstream was you join the military. And I guess you could say the marginalization was to dodge the draft. I believe if the draft ever came in America, the mainstream views of we're not talking about the corporations, Fox News. I'm sure Fox News would go out there and serve the military, be a patriot. But I'm talking about mainstream amongst the people would say, fuck the draft. I really do. I think mainstream would say no way. And it would be actually a fraction that says join it. So meaning it would be night and day compared to the Vietnam draft and today. And what does that mean? Well, it means, again, another data point. Our country is falling apart, where it just shows it's getting worse and worse and worse, where now you have the majority of men, I truly believe, they will not fight and die for this corrupt system. Well, that's not very good, and it's going to continue to get worse. Until then, I'm going to wish everyone a happy 2026. I'll probably do an episode on the Chinese New Year. This is technically not the Chinese New Year. It happens, I think, late January. It's going to be the year of the horse if you're into that stuff. But either way, wishing everyone a happy 2026. Donald Trump now has been president for, about a year now, second term. I'll let you do the judge on that. We'll see how it goes, see how next year. But until then, if you're a patriot, I am telling you, watch the trends. Where are the trends going? So what should you do? Like a good Boy Scout, be prepared. Start preparing, because I'm telling you, I don't think it's going to get better. It's going to continue to get worse. Build your tribe, stay prepared, and get ready. Until then, to the Patriots out there, David Baumblatt from Terebinth Leadership, I really appreciate your support. Lead to victory.